Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Nature of Addictions, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Allan Hendrickson, The Keys to Creation. We are going to be talking about his book that he wrote 10 years ago that's still absolutely apropos today, Think It, Feel It, Have It. But we're also going to be talking about addiction, the shame that is imposed upon it, the loneliness and isolation and the hopelessness that is put upon it, and how we can go about it, that it doesn't always have to be that mainstream line, that there are many, many ways of going about facing that addiction and freeing yourself from it. He is a man who has since childhood has not had the question about human condition, but being unsatisfied with only asking questions, impressively sought the answer to find them. In search of his deeper understanding of the human mind, spirit, and soul, of all our collective human consciousness, has led him to many corners of the world, including India and Tibet, where he hiked the foothills of the Himalayas with the exiled Tibetan monks. I've got to talk about that one. That'll be exciting.
Mm,
He has
mm,
sought after and communicated with spiritual leaders of our time. He has understood, however, that answers could not come only from the world's spiritual leaders, but profoundly and richly from the layman. Accordingly, he has taught as a volunteer to maximize security prison in at maximize prison. Maximize security prisons, get that
mhm,
out there, and has sat and trained with hospice volunteers to sit with people as they're making their transition from a physical form, and believing that the answers to the human predicament lie in the dwelling among of humanity, among the eyes of the dying, being inches from the heart of wrenching anger and body language to the innate rather than retreating from life to the mountainous seclusion. He's dived into the mouth of the volcano and pulled from its depths an understanding of how man could rise above what he has created. He's earned a law degree and has practiced litigation attorney. Has also spent several years in business with multi-million-dollar real estate, and all of these experiences have led him to razor-sharp insights of the human journey into humanity's predicament and incredible potential, a devotion to helping people and understanding life and life themselves, to make life fun, the succulent wine into all that experience has fermented. The ability to articulate wisdom through language manifests in people in varied degrees of skill. He has appeared at the fullest measure. His cutting edge breakthrough programs, in addition to the law of attraction, are helping people get free and create their own happiness. Because that's your responsibility, folks, your own happiness. If you get the
mm,
opportunity to see him in person, make it happen. You will be happy that you did. So much to unravel there, so much to unpack.
mm,
You know, we will get to the book because, yes, you've got to feel it. I'm sorry, feel it. So many people are
uh-huh,
caught up in thoughts that they're not actually paying attention to the
mm,
feeling knowledge. But let us actually dive into the addictions, and there's so many type of addictions they are, and the mediums that help people in certain mainstream like drug addiction or alcoholism. But there's shame behind it, there's blame behind it, there's denial behind it, and also people think addiction is just to do with drugs or with alcohol. But there's the addiction of power, there's the addiction of shopping, there's the addiction of too much coffee, there's addiction of desiring to be liked, just to doing anything just to get attention. And this is all the lack that is within. And
mm.
everybody's searching for it on the outside. That's not where we're going to find the solution, is it? Welcome to the
Yeah.
show, Alan.
Thank you. That introduction was wonderful, and that's somebody my mom would have been proud of, and my dad said it's somebody that didn't exist. So that's really accurate.
What
You
does your
know,
dad
you
think?
know, as you were speaking, I was just kind of noticing that one of the things that I've come to understand about people, that if you could call it an addiction, but I don't even like to call it that. I think it's more what how I like to see it is somebody reaching for some relief from mental
Mm,
resistance.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the degree to which that pressure is coming down on somebody is the degree to which they're willing to risk destroying or, doing something destructive to their life. So it's really like you said in the introduction is it's really misunderstood culturally. So there's the big shame problem.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I've noticed, Sarah, is that dealing with, high profile or big powerful spirits, people who have created big things in their life, making a public declaration about a condition of powerlessness isn't something they're willing to risk because of loss of business, loss of family,
Face.
loss of face, this connected up to shame. So it's really the timing is I think really good for us as we move into this kind of next phase of our evolution here is us becoming more understanding of this problem. And it's not something that's publicly spoke about too much because it's not really a fun subject.
No.
But if you look out there, there's a whole list of the top 50 or 100 powerful people on the planet. All of them came out of this school of addiction.
Hmm.
Almost all of the big majority of them.
Correct.
And it's one of the big things that I like to talk to people about is that I haven't come across a small weak soul that has a big addiction problem. We're talking about big, powerful, creative beings
Yeah.
that have just kind of gone over the rumble strip and gone too far up onto the curb. I guess is the best way to
And
put it.
I've interviewed many of them, like
Yeah,
you know, the seven figures CEO, the top of the chain there, and then getting caught up in the heroin life, the cocaine life, the alcohol life. They're just opulent abuse, right? That's
yeah,
what it came down to, opulent abuse. And then realizing, of how empty they feel. And that it doesn't
yeah,
matter how much they put up their nose or drink or do anything else, that how rich they are, how empty
yeah,
they were, and that a dream and a purpose that they chased after had completely slipped away from them and become something else. And it didn't
yeah,
matter how rich they were. It was, what did it cost them?
yeah, yeah. There was a conversation back when Ram Dass was alive. I had a conversation with him one night. I had quite a few conversations with him, but in this subject of addiction, which he was pretty astute on and had a real broad understanding of the nature of this condition, is he would say that, people get high to get relief from the mind
Hmm.
and get connected to God. And so here you are sitting at the table, and there's Moses, and there's Buddha, and there's Jesus, and there's God at the head of the table, and you're just basking in the presence of the beloved. And then all of a sudden you feel a tap on your shoulder, and you look up, and it's somebody telling you have to leave because you got in on the wrong ticket.
Exactly. Yes. You
Yeah,
didn't
that
earn
that
you
sums
didn't
it up.
earn your way there. You cheated your way there, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
earning your way there is really looking at your own personal demons, your own personal
yeah,
traumas, your own, have you lost your why? Have you lost your passion? Did you have it in the first place? Are you living a life of expectation or dictation? Um, and it's knowing the core of you. And until that core is ignited, where it is that divine wisdom that comes through to you that always will see you right, it's
yeah,
literally kind of putting your heaven and earth together. The divine presence,
yeah,
whatever you want to call it, you can just call it analytically source and energy, or you can go right down to the divine, or whatever you want to call it. And
yeah,
then your human potential, merging them together as one. I think the reason why people become addicted and so lost is they're only living from the human aspect, and they haven't got that purpose divine compass there to lead them
yeah.
along the way.
Yeah. So, there's that's really powerful, Sarah. And one of the things that I notice when I first talk to somebody is when I first initially talk to them, there's always a different viewpoint that they have on themselves than
Mhm.
what I see from them. So, one of the things of anybody doing any work with anybody is if you're going to show up to a situation, you have to show up not seeing a problem, or you got to show up without a context of something being wrong or something being broken.
Right.
It's really this person has been doing whatever they've been doing, and they're now starting to reach out for change of direction and changing things around. It's really an opportunity instead of a breakdown or some sort of a problem that's untenable.
A redirect, right?
Yeah, redirect
Yeah.
is really really good. And no understanding is usually
Yeah.
the big problem is that I first run into. So I think the biggest thing for people is to come to understand the right why that this has gone on. Because if that's stepped over or that's missed, you're on a little bit of a wild goose chase there, and you go down a pretty dark tunnel there. And there's modalities that are available right now, which the paradox or the conflict of the reasoning of them, where somebody would at some particular point exercise their will and refrain or practice restraint from not doing whatever they were doing, yet they keep showing up talking about that they're powerless against something. You
Yeah.
just can't have both of those things going on. So it keeps this person in kind of a
Conflict.
tension.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's just, for a human being, I just don't think any human being should be standing up on a daily or weekly or monthly basis ever talking about being powerless against anything. It's just not true. It's just not
No.
true.
No, the
Yeah.
power lies within us. And
Yeah.
really, why have we taken the addictive road, no matter what that addiction is? It simply could be you're a coffee addict, shopping addict,
Yeah.
chocomaniac. It doesn't matter what that addiction is or what level it's at. It is a form of escapism because you're unable to deal with the conflict or the turmoil that is within you. And,
Yeah.
life is an inside out job. It doesn't matter how rich or famous, popular, or anything else. Look at how many stars have found the courage to say, I suffer from addiction, or I suffer from depression, or I suffer from this
Yeah.
and that. And all of a sudden, this, beautiful, fame, rich, and this and that, nothing wrong with them. And they're going, but I'm human too. I'm vulnerable too.
Yeah.
These are my struggles. Puts everything into perspective where others go, well, that means it's okay if I'm suffering with this. That doesn't make me less than.
Yeah.
It is for me to find whatever skills and tools to manage that depression, understand where it's coming from. Is it clinical? Is it environmental? Is it spiritual, or the lack of spirit,
Yeah.
for us to find our way through? But the more we're willing to talk about it, the more we're normalizing that these are things that are happening and that we do need to address. And there isn't a one size that fits all.
Indeed. Indeed. And I think the best is there's always there's timing in the method, and
Mm.
there's people sometimes who want to reach and have a conversation, but they're just not quite ready yet. They need I know this just sounds a little bit strange, but they need to wreck a car, they need a divorce, they need
Mm.
something to take that
Cosmic
up to
two
that.
by four.
Yeah, something that kind of, okay, now I'm ready to do it. And what I say to people is, you know, just if you're not ready to stop, you just got to make that okay too.
Yes.
There's real timing in the method, and you can't, if you came over to my house and you walked outside and I was in the garden pulling over pulling open the corners of a tulip so I could see the flower in there, you would probably say, you're going to kill that flower. It's going to bloom when it's time for it to bloom. You
Yes.
can't, it doesn't work that way. And
No.
so I say to people, I said, there's kind of a little bit of a joke that I usually open with is, do you know how many psychotherapists it takes to change a light bulb? Well, the answer is only one, but the bulb's really got to want to change.
Yes.
That's really the key to it,
Yes.
right?
I've got
So
another
so it
analogy.
requires a reach.
Mm. I've got another analogy. You can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink. However,
Indeed.
you leave it there long enough and it's going to realize it's thirsty.
He's thirsty. Exactly
Right.
right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
some people get the nudge, nudge, wink, and some people need the cosmic two by four to change. And I will
Yeah.
have to say the percentage of people that have been addicted that I've interviewed who have said it was that cosmic two by four that came along. They had all the signs, they had all the nudge,
Yeah.
nudge, wink, winks, but they weren't paying attention. They, oh no, it's okay, I can manage this. I know it's not that serious.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me. I'm a working alcoholic. And
Yeah.
and then just like it took the cosmic two by four for them to literally fall on their ass and have to get back up wobbly for them to have a damn good look. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's now time for me to pay attention. I need help.
Yeah. There's really no way around this law of attraction concept here, because in what the scenario was you were talking about is one of the, there's some cornerstones to the law of attraction, and one of the big cornerstones is this concept of emotional momentum.
Mm.
And that momentum, let's just consider it like a freight train or an ocean liner. It can be going in a negative direction or it can be going in a positive direction. it's not personal, it's vibrational, right?
Yeah.
It's not a personal thing. It's not, well, I worked so hard, maybe things will come my way now. And I always tell people, like, it's okay, man. The door is open for you to call me back. And as you keep moving in this direction, it's just going to get worse. It's
Mm.
not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's a law of the universe. So as you can start to see that with some sort of predict on an outcome, then as they start to see this mass getting bigger energetically as the momentum builds, then they see, like, there's a big thing getting ready to blow up. It's just like a volcano getting ready to erupt. It's just inevitable.
I always say that, I've birthed three children, and every single one of those pregnancies and births were, as one doctor said, Sarah, you're allergic to pregnancy. Like, yeah, I definitely am. But all the kids were worth it. But, I kind of look at it as kind of realizing you're pregnant, you've got the morning sickness, and then, then the things you can eat and you can't eat, and then the backache, and then, of course, the labor pain. But then
Yeah,
once you actually give birth and you've got that child in your arms, you forget all the pain you've been through. And it's like,
yeah,
for people who have been in addiction or are in addiction, be willing to go through the transition that you need to go through to rebirth yourself. It is
yeah,
going to be uncomfortable. There are going to be
yeah,
times you want to give up. You can't give up in the middle of labor. Sorry, folks. You've got to go through it. And it's about
yeah,
going through the process, but which process works for you so that you can give birth to yourself as in the light that you want to be
yeah,
seen in.
yeah, yeah. Really good analogy. Really good analogy, Sarah. And one of the things that I teach or I share with people is really early on is getting them really present to shifting their relationship, shifting their context or their relationship towards contrast, these contrasting experiences that they're creating. And one of the things over the years of coaching people I've come to realize is we talk about this earth being a curriculum, a school of
Yes.
learning.
Mhm.
And what I've kind of put as a little model out here, that it is a school of learning, and there's categories that we're all taking lessons in. And when somebody comes to me for the first time, they don't come to me just because everything is great and they're
Yeah.
expanding and thriving. And it's not how it works. So they come to me and they're either in the class of sex, relationship, job, family. They're in one of these 7 classes, and they're creating some contrast so they can experience this, so they can now understand what it's like to be on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And when a person can get that relationship shifted around, it's a real relief,
Yes.
because it takes all the seriousness out of it. It doesn't have to be so significant, right? So significant.
I just had an engineer who is actually an Aveda and yoga and, coach, etc. And sometimes she gets a little stuck in the engineering mind. And I said, look, the engineer, first trust, trust what the universe is giving you, the wisdom, right?
Uh-huh.
The wisdom is given to you and it resonates in your heart and truth. It gives it to your spirit and action for your mind to know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. But the beauty of being the engineer, like you as an attorney, you've got the structure to know actually how to take that wisdom and apply it in a way that actually it can build on itself.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I hadn't had any plans of talking about that. But as I was going, when I was getting ready or contemplating going to law school, my whole journey on law school was a compensation for feeling stupid. So yeah, yeah, it was. I had in my mind, I had made up, like, if I became a lawyer, then I can't be stupid, because there's no dumb lawyers, and that was so
Well, that's
pervasive. And
questionable.
yeah, I found out
Definitely
that was not
questionable.
the case, right? Well, it was such in my blind spot that before I woke up to it, I've taken the bar exam in California 3 times and then finally passed the bar exam. And then that didn't handle my sentence of thinking that I was not smarter, that I was stupid. So then I went on and I scheduled and I went and took the MCATs, because I was going to go to medical school then next, so I could be a JD MD. And thank God I woke up before I got myself
Oh,
enrolled in.
the whole year, your whole life of just learning and not applying, right? Yeah, yeah. And for what? The title, attorney, doctor. Oh, you must respect me because I'm esteemed,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, no,
yeah.
doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And when I was getting these lessons, kind of on the court in life, I didn't have a family unit or a home unit that had access to any of this conversation. Like, I was never in a church ever. I was never in any, like, my dad was an engineer and everything was rational and
Mm-hmm.
linear, and the church was a ripoff, and it was a money making scheme, and there was all kinds of attacks on anything for any kind of spiritual help or anything like that. So I was fortunate enough when I finally woke up. I had one of the cosmic 2x4s that you talk about, and this is a true story. I was literally walking out of a restaurant in Huntington Beach, and there was a cassette on the floor, just on the ground outside the door, and I picked it up and looked at it. And it was Ram Dass. It was a lecture from Ram Dass, and I listened to it, and the rest was pretty much history.
The
Yeah,
universe always
unbelievable,
delivers
huh? Isn't that
when
unbelievable?
we're ready, right? But
Hmm.
you could have picked it up and tossed it away, right?
Absolutely, Sarah.
But your
Absolutely.
instincts that you paid attention to at the time, oh, I wonder what this is, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
universe gives us the answers all the time, but are we paying attention?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so beautiful about what you're saying right now is, subsequent to that, is what I came to find out and realize is, because Ram Dass used to say to me all the time, "How's your meditation practice going?" And I'd say, "Let's talk about something else," right?
But also that there are so many different ways of meditating. It isn't cross-legged being silent. I've had a monk on, Michel Pascal, who takes people into Times Square to meditate amongst the chaos.
Yeah.
Because what good is meditation just in silence if you can't use it in the chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the things that he talked about. Ram Dass talked about having people. If I could do it over again, I would tell people, if you're having trouble with the city chaos, go get in the city. Fit
Yes.
yourself in the midst of those kinds of things. But what I've come to understand about it is, the bigger part of myself that had me grab that cassette, I wasn't in tune with that part of myself at
Uh-huh.
that time.
Uh-huh.
I was just kind of starting to wake up for what was kind of happening to me. And what I noticed over the years, as my meditation practice, and my meditation practice is, it's 20 minutes and 11 seconds every morning. It's the first thing that I'm doing when I wake up. And what I've noticed is, over the years, is I'm more now, my mind is quiet enough to where I can hear that message to pick up the cassette.
Yeah.
I can now hear that inner being, or that source, or God, or Atman, or Christ consciousness, whatever
Higher
you want to call
consciousness,
that.
higher
Yeah,
consciousness.
higher consciousness, let's say that. Okay. It's just semantics, but it's
Yeah.
now, as my mind has quieted down so
Yeah.
much, I can now hear where that, I can feel and follow those impulses now, because I can hear them much more clearly, where
Yeah.
before I didn't know what was what, and my mind was kind of leading the way
Yeah,
all the time.
exactly. And our
Yeah.
mind is data, it's programming, it's patterns. And very often it's on a treadmill, or like a hamster wheel, going around and
Yeah.
round and round. And we've got two different types of what if. What if it doesn't work? What if, I shouldn't do this? What will people think? And then there's what if? It's
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic. And I'm always feeding the what if. If I'm in the other what if, I know it's I'm in my mind. When I'm in the
Yeah.
what if this is going
Yeah.
to be something exuberant, I know that it's my higher conscious leading me. That is my
Yeah.
compass. It never sets me wrong. Never sets me
Yeah.
wrong. Where I go wrong is when I'm purely in thought. And where is
Yeah.
that thought? It's the exterior expectation of societal expectation, religious expectation, political expectation, economic expectation of what you
Yeah.
should be, right?
Yeah.
And that everybody else
Yeah.
is trying to live up to, which is delusional
It
because we're
is.
not meant to live up to that. And at the expense of your beautiful soul that is waiting to ignite and
Mhm.
become the person you were put here to be.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And one of the other things that I've also recognized or come to notice is, now, there's a couple of ways that people have said this, that have come out with it, but one of the things that I've really come to understand is, if it the amount of opportunities that come my way are a lot. I get a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunities that I think are really great opportunities financially, but they don't really feel good. And with the ones like that I've gotten involved with, I'm serious here, in excess of probably 30, 40 of these opportunities, not one has worked. But the ones that were like, I don't really see how this is going to work, but these guys are really cool and groovy. Yeah, those ones all worked. Those ones all worked out. Yeah. So following that higher, learning to follow that higher passion when it's not when it's getting its senior to this. Yeah. I think you're muted, Sarah.
Sorry, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got this RSV virus, folks, so I'm trying not to splutter here. So I keep muting
Yeah, no
myself.
worries. No worries. No worries.
Um, I've lived very much from that expectation life of, and I've gone explored many things of thinking, okay, sometimes it's the gut telling me to do it, but then
Yeah.
what has happened is minds have come in and misconstrued it,
Yeah.
what the purpose of that journey was about. And I've
Yeah.
become bankrupt. I've lost everything by following certain paths where I know it was right. I
Yep.
know it was right, but it got into the wrong hands.
Yep.
And so once it was in the
Yep.
wrong hands, it was obliterated from the energy that it was meant to be. Right.
Indeed.
And
Indeed.
so
Yeah.
it is very essential that when we get given an idea to follow something, to make sure that we stay within the same frequency with the people we gather to be a
Yeah.
part of that, and don't get kind of fantasized about, oh, we're going to be famous, or it's going to be rich, and it's going to do this and that, because that can take you off on a totally different frequency,
Yeah. It's
right?
not the one you want to be on. Yeah.
No, no.
And I think Joseph Campbell said it best on this follow your bliss concept. It's so beautiful when you can understand what that excitement or that enthusiasm is giving when you feel that and
Yeah.
that gets aligned and then you take action on it. It doesn't matter what direction that's going to go. It's your right next direction. Even
Yes.
though you see, yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's also, be patient. For 5 years, I've been trying to put a book together called Our Forgotten Children series, which is an anthology of people contributing a chapter around the raising of our children, because I firmly believe our dysfunctional societies, because we have not invested in our children properly. And if we
Mhm,
nurture and invest into our children and truly listen to them and fortify the gift that they are, we won't have such a dysfunctional adult society.
mhm,
But it's taken
yeah,
5 years to do that. And I've tried here and I've tried there, but I had to wait for the universe to synchronize all the right people. Now, the people I thought I was going to do it with, only one or two of them could do it.
yeah,
And
I
then,
understand.
but suddenly I'm now interviewing people on various subjects. Like, you've got to be in the book. You've got to be in the
Yeah,
book. You're perfect for the
yeah,
book. And we just
yeah.
did a summit with all 15 of us authors, and they were all blowing each other away. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. And if you guys are all inspiring each other, then this is what I hope the book is going to do, right? So, but that's the thing, is that the idea wasn't wrong. The principle around the idea wasn't wrong. But I had to wait not only for the right timing, but for the right people to show up.
Yeah,
So we've got
yeah.
to have patience and persistence, but allow it to come when it's
Allowance.
ready.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really big one for me too because I was a real addicted to doing this, right? To even
Yes.
yeah, even down to the point of how much time I had to eat my food and that everything was really in this kind of scheduled,
Yeah.
compartmentalized, kind of robotic kind of. And so for me, and this is a really subtle thing that people really trip over a lot and has people stop even trying to investigate or apply any law of attraction
Yeah.
practices to their life is that I wanted it all right now, but I kept looking at my present time environment and I kept saying to the universe, it's not here yet. And so the universe said,
Where's the
no
Amazon
problem,
delivery?
no problem, no problem, right?
Yeah.
And then I finally realized, like, what would it be like if everything I wanted was here right now? I'd be overwhelmed. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
know what to do.
Yes. Yeah, not only overwhelmed, you misuse what you're given, because everything comes in the right order at the right time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But if
yeah,
we demand it all be now, it's like, well, I've got all these components and I don't know how to put them together. Which order should they be in? And
yeah.
that, yeah,
It would be a horrible problem, a
yes,
horrible, horrible problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, be careful what you're asking for, right? I mean, I used to be a people pleaser, um, because I kept trying to bend myself into a pretzel to be what other people wanted me to be.
Yeah.
And I was denying myself. And it was a journey back to being me. That's what my memoir is all about, my self-discovery of, in soul living. Because I've always meant to live from the soul. I've always come from the soul, but I allowed my
Yeah.
soul to serve other people and not serve me. And the
Great
lesson,
contrast.
well, yeah, but there, because the lesson in having the soul serves me means I am a better server. We're all here to serve one another.
Indeed.
But I'm a
Indeed.
much better contributor when I'm coming from the truth of my heart, soul, and spirit, rather than
Yeah.
the people pleasing, which is denying the essence of who I am.
Not much value there, Sarah. Sorry. It's got discard value only.
But can we actually say that any one of us, and maybe even all of us, at some point have been addicted to something? You've got people addicted to religion. You're addicted to the likes, addicted to anything, addicted to people pleasing. It's eh, whether it's big or small. If it's something that we feel we've got to do, or things, are going to fall to pieces, or have to, it's the difference between soul compulsion and the dictation of got to do it. That is unrational,
Yeah.
irrational. That would you feel that we've all got that tendency inside of us?
You know what I think what I've come to understand is that when people they look for relief in different varying
Mm.
ways, and what it really is coming to do is every time we've got ourselves cut off from ourselves with our mind, there's various ways and various degrees of which we do that. And I think, the fundamental law of attraction concept that I live by and that I teach is, everybody's, it's the Dalai Lama said, everybody, he says, if he comes out on stage and says, before I met everybody here today, we had something in common. We all desire to be happy. Yeah. Everybody's desiring to be happy and feel good. And what I've noticed is people have a tendency to, they're doing what they're doing because they think in the getting of what they're after, then they're going to be happy. And the universe says, once you're happy, then you can have what you want. So there's a
Yes.
backwardness to it. And so I say to people, if you got to first understand this concept, now we got to find a way to get you happy before your stuff shows up. That's the
Yeah.
key to it, right?
And but the permission to be happy. A lot of people think, "No, I don't have the right to be happy," or I don't know what happiness is. And happiness is an illusion. And those are the people that are kind of either stuck in trauma, stuck in doubt. And again,
Yeah,
they're living the outside, not the inside living, because
yeah,
happiness is taking a walk in the woods and the rustle of the leaves as the wind blows through
yeah,
its trees. It's the
yeah,
ocean lapping on the shore. It's children laughing. It's
yes,
doggies chasing sticks. Anything that brings a
yes,
smile to your face, to your heart, it's made you
yeah,
happy. Can you sustain
yes.
that happiness? What can you do to sustain that happiness?
Yeah. And to start to really notice these little breadcrumbs, or these little wins, little victories all the time of the universe conspiring with you and lining up with you for, they look like little, as Deepak Chopra calls them, synchro destinies.
Mm-hmm,
These
mm-hmm.
little things where you go to the airport and you can't find whatever you're looking for, and then the lady behind you walks up and says, here, look at this, you drop this over at the, and
Yep.
I've have so many of those going on all the time for me, that
Mm-hmm.
at first I first started off from the condition of, when somebody would talk about being happy, I got a little, yeah, I got a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, back in my lawyering days. And one of the things that I evolved out of was, and I actually started a game, which I'm going to do a TED talk in February on this little
Mhm.
game that I created. Is I got really in a real heavy depression when I was making this transition of really just waking up. and,
Yes.
and what had happened was, there was two Jehovah Witnesses that came to my door, and I opened the door, and just as a function of my social, veneer, I put a smile on my face. And the
Mm-hmm.
moment I put that smile on my face, since I was feeling so bad, I catapulted to where I noticed that I was
Yes.
feeling better
Yes.
from that, right?
Yes.
And it was so drastic because I was in such rough shape.
Mm.
So what I noticed is that this, as Mother Teresa said, smiling is our first act of love,
It is.
just to be able to smile. So I created a game, and the game is, it's the Smile Project. And what you do is you just go out. The beautiful part about this game, sir, is that even when you lose, you win.
Yeah.
So if you and me go out and we're going to play a game for today, everyone that you smile at that smiles back at you, you get a point. And if
Mm,
somebody comments on your smile, you get 3 points. So I've played this game with a lot of my friends, and a lot of my friends are like, "Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not smiling all day," and then later would come around and want to play the game. But I got 44 points in one day, which was my personal best. But as I began to share the game with other
yeah.
people when I was out, it just really, really started spreading. And I was one of the first times that I felt like, wow, that's impacting the vibration on the planet, especially in my particular community and people around me.
A smile is a way of
The
saying to
Smile
people,
Project, yeah,
yeah, it says, I see you. It
yeah,
says, I care. It says, I'm
yeah,
willing to understand and I'm willing to share my
yeah, and
love, my
connect with you.
compassion.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And,
connect.
a smile is a door opener, it's a heart
Mm-hmm.
opener, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a spirit sharer. There's so
Yeah,
much power in a smile.
it's so simple and so beautiful and just so, yeah, I feel real lucky that I just kind of paid attention to that when that was going on.
Hmm.
And what's really great is because it's not something that I typically would have picked up or kind of ran with because it wasn't a moneymaker and there wasn't,
Yeah.
an operating agreement and an LLC and
Yeah.
a public offering, right? Things that
Yes.
had nothing to do with happiness, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's again, why do we chase the things that we chase? And ultimately we want to be happy. We want to feel
yeah,
accomplished. And
yeah,
also we want to feel we are contributing, right?
yeah,
That we've made a difference in someone's life. If
yeah,
you're only making a difference in your life and your bank balance, and you think that power and having money and lording it over other or controlling people because of that, that is desperation. It is not happiness, right?
yeah,
And but when you share a smile and the smiles grow and they ripple and they
yeah,
just people just start smiling for no reason. It is
yeah,
that is one of the best economic things you can do because it feeds the
yeah,
heart and the soul and the spirit and the well-beingness of a person.
yeah. There's something very, very powerful about being able to recognize the impact or the power of the feeling. And I don't know, and I'm definitely not alone in this, and it's more a male phenomena than a female phenomena because of just the allowing nature of women. Thank God
Mhm.
for women. One of my favorite quotes from L. Ron Hubbard is, men are very burdensome but necessary.
Uh-huh.
So that's coming from a man, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one, which is one that I share with people a lot, like at parties or social gatherings, is I say this, and before I say it, I say, I'm going to tell you something which is a secret to the universe and how it works in our culture. And the women here are going to agree with me and say, of course. And the men are going to shake their head like that's not true. And I say it goes like this: women are powerful pretending to be hopeless romantics, and men are hopeless romantics pretending to be powerful. And the women all go, yeah, and the men go,
Denial, denial, man, denial, denial. You know, the the
yeah,
true the true, abundance of a man is when he has stepped into his spirit, when he has stepped into his heart and soul, when he actually
yeah,
embraces the feminine side of him.
yeah, the
And can
allowance.
Yeah, the allowance, that living in that yin and yang of everything you're meant to be. We have a lot of masculine inside of us, right?
Yeah,
And if we know how to bring that balance into it,
yeah,
women are we never do just one thing. If
yeah,
anybody's raised a family, my daughter, when she had her baby, said to me, Mom, how did you do it at 3? And I said, I don't know, I just did it. You do
yeah,
what's needing to be done when you do it, and you know the
yeah,
overall results that you want from it, and we get on with it. Where a
yeah,
guy wants to analyze it and spout about it and this about it, and this is why we've got to do a survey on it and this and that. And it's like, well, let's just do it. Let's
yeah,
just see.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There's a
Also,
different thought
on,
process there.
yeah, that's spot on. And there's also like maybe a partner to that, which is as you begin doing this or practicing, or people start to dabble with the law of attraction, the understanding of, and it's so counterintuitive for us, of this allowing things to come to us that
Mm,
they've already created. It's
mm.
just waiting for us to stop doing that little dance we do that keeps it from showing up. And so if you start to talk to someone for a while, you'll find out what the little dance is that they do to stop
Yeah.
what it is that, right? And
It's
then they'll
in
start
queue.
to,
It's waiting for you to open the door.
yeah, really, it
Yeah.
really is. For me, when I first started having my biggest breakthroughs in the law of attraction and the application was not until I really began to understand this allowing part,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I kept trying to overcompensate that. And I was doing all my rowing upstream, thinking everything I wanted was upstream. And I didn't even know that I didn't even have to turn the little boat around. I had to just stop rowing upstream.
You're
The
not a
river
salmon.
will, yeah, I'm not a salmon. I'm going to use that. Yeah, I'm not a salmon. But it's so counterintuitive for
Yeah.
this culture of to get tuned into my beingness instead of my doingness. And it's
Yes.
so, I got so caught up on this when I broke through that I was at the Jersey Shore, right? I was doing some writing and visiting a friend, and I had this breakthrough on this. And so I said, you know what, I gotta go find out how many people out here really understand what a being is.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
interviewed 100 people on the boardwalk. Not one person knew what beingness was.
Yeah.
Not one knew what a being was.
That's scary.
Well, we're human beings, but they all had the human part down. The
Yes.
human
But
part was
but but I,
down.
if you've only got the human part down, you're a humanoid because
Yeah, yeah,
you're
exactly.
disconnected. The beingness is the presence and essence of who you are and what you're here to do, aligned
Yeah,
with the human in order to do it.
yeah. Well, the fascination of that for me, Sarah, where I just kind of had like oh boy, this culture might be in more trouble than I'm even aware of, or more trouble than I was in, right? Maybe more trouble than I was in. But what I noticed is that if I am a human being and no one's had a conversation with me about being,
Mhm.
and I'm now 29 years old, this is a real this is a
Yes.
real problem.
Yes.
Because that's where all the payoff is in the being, right?
Exactly. That's where
Yeah,
the enrichment and the abundance is. You know,
yeah,
I'm always yelled at, because sorry, you only do your shows by donation and you need to charge this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I go, no. The universe is going to show me what I need to do. I'm already
yeah,
feeling enriched and abundant, and the money will come from those. For me, it's all about free will. So,
yeah,
for reason for people to support the work that I do and support the station must come from free will because that is
yeah.
what I call conscious money, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
instead of
yes,
charging people and they're feeling you've got to live up to their expectation of the dollar, of the
yeah,
services. And I know it's a backward way of thinking for many people, but unfortunately, it is my conscious way of thinking. It's the way I have to live on
yeah,
it. Certain
yeah,
services I can charge for because they are structure services, but other things, they are a gift to society because they have to be told, like these
yeah,
podcasts, like what you're
yeah,
sharing. They have to be told. And it's like, please listen to your own compass of your own
yeah,
consciousness of what is
yeah.
important and what isn't. And I've been doing this nearly 12 years and 10 and a half years of my own network. I've been fighting people on this for a long time and they can't
Nobody's
get.
got any idea what you're supposed to be doing. They got their hands full with themselves.
Yes, and everybody's got a solution. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. And it's like either you're not in the podcast business, so you don't understand, or your podcast business is serving a different business. So, it's I have to follow the path that my conscience tells me to follow.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that it will always protect me, it will always provide. It doesn't
yeah,
provide an abundance. No, I'm kind of waiting for that abundance. I need a
yeah,
little infusion, please.
yeah,
But it will always provide what I need when I need it,
yeah,
because it wants me to continue on this path of my purpose.
yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes,
Let's
indeed. And
talk
that
about
that
purpose. Let's talk about purpose, because I feel people
mm,
that go down addictive ways don't have connection with self, but also don't have a sense of purpose, or they have the wrong purpose they're chasing.
you're saying the same thing in different language.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah, you're saying the same thing. They're just on a different course. But
yeah.
one of the things that you'll notice about people that get into trouble, Abraham Hicks tells the analogy of the side of the, when you're driving on the road and then you hit the wop 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 wop, the thing on the shoulder that lets you
Yes.
know you're going off the road.
Yes.
People who are off purpose, or people who are under the auspices of these heavy addictions or destructive behavior, have not only crossed that rumble strip, but they've gone over into the neighborhood. They're, you know, some
There's
of them,
someone's
some of
pool.
them, yeah. I had a person that I worked with that said to me, like, I got so far off my path that my inner being, in order to get me back on path, put me in jail
Mm-hmm.
to get me back onto the road,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
so it was really beautiful because he noticed, or he was able to see that that was his next path, or his next right action was him going to jail, instead of the stigma of everything he lived with for going to jail. Like, the blessing of that, it turned out.
Yes.
And what I've come to find out is, when people now get to learn that how they feel is the most important thing in their life, and everything that they want ain't coming until they get that handled and
Yeah.
start moving on that track, they can then start to realize, and I'm telling you, it's happened a lot, Sarah. Yeah, this is what I knew this the whole time, that I was supposed to be doing
Yeah.
this. And you know what the number one reason is they never did it? 99% of them, and this is not a small sample,
Mm.
99%. The reason I didn't do gardening is because I didn't think I could make a living doing it.
Right. And
It's
that,
it's almost every time. It's what
yeah,
the reason is.
we've
Yeah,
become a money society, right?
yeah,
Again, that's one of the chapters in a Forgotten Children book where somebody's talking about money and children, teaching them very early that money is is a tool, and how to
uh-huh.
look at money, that money doesn't become your dictator.
Yeah,
And we want to make a living. But then what we have to do, if my passion is gardening and it only makes X, Y, and Z, how can I live comfortably, safely within that economic situation so that it allows me to still doing what I love to do? So we
yeah,
have to
yeah,
change our standards instead of trying to live up to a standard. Do you need the
yeah,
mansion? Do you need the
yeah,
mansion? And it's
yeah,
the focus on what's important to you that money can support, not chasing the money to be important.
yeah. That, any chasing of it's not going to work. But if we're talking in this language of abundance, and I will tell you from my own personal experience, when I was a young boy, there's some things that had happened to me growing up that, would probably have my father put in jail nowadays, right? But that was all part of my creation, and as part of my comeuppance, if you will, all part of my schedule, all part of my. There's no condemnation on my dad, or my dad he's wonderful just the way he is, and just the way he isn't. But there's also something about that experience for me, had me living in a state of, my self-worth wasn't there, and how
Yes.
that was showing up financially was worthless and broke,
Yeah.
right? So, and the broke was in the physical body,
Mhm.
right? So chronic little nags, and like, I was always feeling broke in my body, and weird things like torn ACL. I got a
Mhm.
reconstructed right knee, like, broke, like
Yeah.
literally broke, reflecting in the body. And
Mhm.
then financially broke, would get,
Yeah.
have somebody send me a check for $118,000, and then 3 months later I'm broke. Like, how do
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah.
Like, that's a skill. That's a
Yes.
real skill, right? It's an effortless skill, right? It's an effortless skill, but it was an indicator of something that was way out of line and
Oh,
way out
way
of
out of
whack.
line. Mhm.
But yeah, again, this beingness that I possessed was so clever and so smart that no one would have even detected it. It went
Yeah.
almost unnoticed, almost unnoticed. And until I got myself and started looking at, like, my sense of my personal
Mhm.
sense of worth, not
Mhm.
what anybody else thinks I'm worth,
Exactly.
what I think that I'm worth.
Mhm.
Only then did the money conversation shift for me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Um, we are not a dollar sign.
no,
We are not a dollar sign. Our worth is in who we are as a beautiful essence of being, what we're here to contribute, how
yeah,
we're meant to do it, whether you're just a smile expert and you go around sharing smiles all day, right?
yeah,
I don't care. is that we're all given, I draw the analogy of we're here to discover what our instrument is and learn how to play it. And yes, we can
Yeah.
play it solo and have a great effect. But when we join an orchestra of like vibrational um, beings and each one of their own expertise come together harmoniously together, the music
Yeah.
then becomes transcending, right?
It really does.
But that orchestra is not going to be transcending if we haven't learned to play our instrument. So
Yeah.
what is our
Yeah.
instrument? We're all given a gift, every single one of us. And I don't care if you're a janitor or when you walk into a building, you're going to go up to the 15th floor to see the CEO, but the elevator's dirty and sticky and everything's dirty. What's your opinion of the CEO
Yeah.
when you get up there? The janitor
Yeah.
set the stage. He's just as important. And so,
Indeed.
what job are you doing? Do not let society stigma you into that it's a shameful job, because COVID proved to us all the people that are out there working in the stores, delivering the groceries, the nurses, the janitors at the hospital, we couldn't survive without them. And yet they have
Yeah.
been so unappreciated for so long. Stand
Yeah.
tall in the instrument that you are, for
Yeah.
it is very, very important on whatever scale it's on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the I spent, I don't know if I had said this or mentioned this to you before, but I spent maybe 5 or 6 years inside the Church of Scientology. And one of the things that was, very, very, very powerful for me was there's, one of the big tool there is auditing, which
Hmm.
basically just means to listen.
Yes.
But as you audit with somebody, you've got somebody who's an auditor who's just listening to you, that's asking you questions, but you're holding these metal cans and there's a circuit going up to a board that they're reading. So they're measuring the mass on your thoughts.
Mm.
And the whole purpose, and I didn't realize this at first till later, is to find out areas where you've got this resistance and this charge, whether it's conscious or unconscious, get those incidents up, run them out,
Yeah.
and release that resistance.
Hmm.
So that was a really, really big early clue for me about how prevalent. And then my own mind, my own mental resistance of pushing back and being angry, 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 and then being in a culture where it's not chic to be angry in this culture.
Yeah.
It's just not chic. So I spent probably 3 years of my life being angry and then powerless, and then angry and then powerless, and then angry and powerless. And I didn't ever have an avenue or an expression of that anger. And it
Mm.
wasn't about to dramatize the anger, it was an opportunity to express it and then move on to some higher realms or frequencies. But
Yes.
I had a lid on me before
Yeah.
I just kept bouncing back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the concept of looking at and connecting up this mental resistance issue with human addiction, human beings and addiction, and mental resistance. And the bigger the being, the more drugs over time.
Yes.
It's just they're directly proportional, and the more it's kind of caved down. And I think it was Shakespeare. Shakespeare was talking about there's nothing good nor bad around here, just your thinking makes it so.
Yeah.
It's
Or your
it's
actions.
well, I say that from the standpoint of when I first get with somebody, it's normally the intensity of, I have a joke, and the joke says, after I've spoke to them and gotten related, I'll say, I think if we got to teach you how to be a little more kind. Some kindness is really what's missing here. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, let me just get to the point. If I was treating you half as rough as you're treating yourself,
Mhm.
you'd probably get a restraining order on me. You'd probably
Yeah.
get a restraining order
Yeah,
on me.
absolutely. And people are unaware of that until somebody points it out.
Yeah,
I say to them,
yeah,
if you saw somebody else doing this to themselves, wouldn't you intervene?
yeah,
Yes, I would. Then
yeah.
why are you not intervening on yourself, right?
It's
I
just
would say
it's the way
resistance
it
is
is.
emotions are here to indicate how we are reacting to a situation, right? So they serve a purpose, but don't become emotional over your emotions.
Yeah,
If you're angry, what are you angry about? Spend the anger, get rid of it. Don't stay in the anger for anger's sake. or
Yeah.
sadness or depression, or even, I'm happy,
Yeah.
despite anything else, I'm going to stay happy. No, we have lull periods where we're sad,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to be
Yeah.
sad. You appreciate being happy even more, but understand why those
Contrast.
emotions are there.
Contrast. That
Hmm.
contrast is beautiful.
Yes.
Unless you don't have a relationship to it, then it's horrible.
Exactly. Exactly. Because then, everything kind of becomes very flat. And, we say resistance is futile. The universe doesn't give up on us. It just keeps cosmeting us two by
Yes,
four,
it
two by
does.
five, two by four, until we get
Yeah.
it. And then when
Yeah.
we finally wake up and go, okay, you've been there all the time.
Yeah.
And now I am awake and aware. I'm going to see those signs that you are pointing, those
Yeah.
breadcrumbs that you're
Yeah.
making so
Breadcrumbs they are
obvious
indeed.
along the way. I'm paying attention.
Yeah. You know that the connection of, and it's a really beautiful combination of, there's, and when I say prayer, when I'm talking about someone's prayer life, I don't mean like a deal cutting or bargaining or,
Mm.
please help Sarah make some money for her show. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about true prayer, like to ask as if it's already shown up, like with the expectation that it's arrived already. That prayer and meditation, such a beautiful combination, Sarah, of allowing us to hear how our prayers are being answered when this thing is quieted down
Yeah.
enough to see it.
I want to give a couple of examples here of prayer being answered. And I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. I have a direct
Yeah.
line, I don't go through the church.
Yeah.
My mum was dying and she was very sick and she needed to pass over. She needed to cross over. And she wanted to die, just didn't know how. You're like, come on, Death, come
Yeah.
and take me. And
Yeah.
there was a certain kind of resistance or fear around it, right? And
Hmm.
I put on Facebook to my wonderful followers that have been following me and traveling with me for all these years, I need a prayer for my mum to help her cross over. And 110 people sent verbal prayers, plus other people, the likes, etc. Within 24 hours, it was a dull day. My sister was with my mum. And she said it was raining, it was a dull day, and they'd moved my mum into the living room, the lovely bay window there. And my sister went to make a cup of tea. When she came out, she said the sun was directly shining on my mum. Her eyes
Uh,
and her hands were over, and she had passed over peacefully.
indeed. Yeah. Beautiful.
Now, another one is recently, one of the people that are in the book, Victoria Curry, her daughter went into hospital with a most vicious, nasty virus that literally was breaking down her organs. And she's had 12 going on 13, 14 operations. And she was in a
Hmm.
coma, and they didn't think. The doctor said, I don't think she's going to make it. She's just not going to make it. And of
Uh-huh.
course, she put out a prayer vigil, I put out a prayer vigil, and everybody put out that vigil out there. Her daughter is awake. She's off the respirator, off the dialysis. She's still got a long way to go, but
Yeah.
she's back with us. Now,
Yeah.
prayer, whether you're looking at it from a religious point of view or an energetic point of view,
Yeah.
sending people loving white light,
Yeah.
good vibrations, is sending them positive energy. And the more people that send it to people who need it, the more energy they have around them to help lift them out of
Really
whatever
good.
situation they're in.
Really, really good. Really good. And it's so beautiful because so much of prayer is, it's attributed to almost like a final shot, like, well, I guess all we'll do is pray now.
Yes,
It seems
yes,
like
yeah.
it's kind of been
I give
dressed
up,
up as a last,
universe, I open up. Yes.
I
Yeah,
guess we can pray.
yeah. But it isn't like in some religions it's almost praying as a punishment. If you don't pray, you're going to go to hell and all of that. And it's like, as I said, there's a direct line to whatever source you want to call it, whatever
Yeah.
God you want to call it. And is that energy is available to us all the time. As I said, you were,
Amen.
anger back and forth, bouncing for because you hadn't opened up that door. You
Yeah.
hadn't released it.
Yeah.
And then once you did, the universe goes, ah, thank God he's open.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And it took me
we're in
giving
our
up.
own way.
Yes. I was going to say it took me giving up.
Yes,
Like
surrender.
literally, that's exactly,
Yeah,
yes, surrender. It
yeah.
was really a give up.
And
Yeah.
then allow. Surrender and
Yeah.
allow go hand in hand. You surrender, I surrender to
Twins.
you, and I allow you to show me the path
They're
forward.
twins. For sure,
Yeah,
they're twins.
yeah.
Yeah.
They work in
Yeah.
tandem with each other. And it's
Yeah.
without dictation or expectation. Just allow. And you will
Yes.
always be given more than you even thought that you could receive.
Don't limit it. Yeah.
Don't
And
limit.
one of the things,
We're the ones that limit ourselves. Nobody else. The universe
yes,
doesn't.
indeed. I was I just I spent the month of December in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya.
Mm.
And I just wanted to share one of the things because I know that I didn't know that you had this commitment to children and the youth is
There'll be
you know
another
I
book 2 and 3 and 4. This is the first one in that
yeah, yeah.
series.
So there was a I met a pastor over there, a Christian pastor, and his wife Liz, the friends of my sister-in-law who is from there. She's from Kenya, and I got to spend some time with him and get to know them. Just really beautiful people, and I got to go down and see some of the work that he's doing. And then my sister-in-law kind of took me down, showed me some of the stuff that he's doing, and so we got involved on a little but much of a little bit of a bigger involvement. And what I noticed was, as I was down, what he does is he helps these teens there, there's drug addiction, whatever the problem is, ones that have been disconnected from themselves or obviously disconnected from their family. And so he gets them in there, and then he loves them.
Hmm.
Is really what he does, is he loves them and gets them reconnected back to their family, but also reconnected back to the community with things that are, things that we take for granted, like, creating things for the older people so they can go to the bathroom there
Yes. Yeah.
because their knees are so bad they can't bend, and bringing things into, like, so letting these kids now get themselves connected in a way that they're making a difference. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I noticed about being around these kids as opposed to working with adults, that there's not as much momentum,
Yeah.
and so they snap out faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just kind of
They got less
recover so much
garbage
faster.
to unload.
Yeah, not as much momentum has
Yeah.
gone in that direction. So I just really excited, and I'll share more with you about that project as we move down the line. And just Africa
Well,
was just
funny
such
enough,
a beautiful trip.
one of the people in the book, Alexander Johnson, that is what her book is about helping children that have either gone down the addictive or criminal way of coming
Yeah,
back. It's from a God type of perspective, but it is about what is God. I've actually had an argument with, I don't argue, I don't go conspiracy, but a disagreement with somebody I interviewed that was highly religious. And I said, God is love. And he goes, I disagree. And I go, well, what is he to you? And it was some form of like control or this or that, and I
yeah,
go, no, my God is love.
yeah,
Everything that my God or my source of energy does is in love for me, love of what my contribution is, love of
yeah,
what we can be when we choose to be. And it all
yeah,
comes from love, and you can feel that flood of love. That's why I say people that go down the addictive road are alone. When you're with this source of energy, whether you're with this beautiful divine presence and you become that love that you
yeah,
seek, you are
yeah,
no longer alone.
yeah.
You know,
It's really powerful when you can understand that, we are an extension of that which is we call what they're referring to as God or source energy or whatever you are. So you can never be disconnected from what you are, but you can sure have the experience of feeling disconnected
yes,
from it. And that's
yes,
a real different kind of distinction that kind of shows a little bit, like, you can create the is I don't know if you ever listened to any Daryl Anka who channels Bashar.
no, no.
It's all abundance, but you can have an abundance of disconnectedness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
As I said, I've just written my own memoir, and my brother was editing it. He's a professional literary master and author himself, and writes. He writes, I call very spiritually. He doesn't live that way, but it comes out in his books.
Uh-huh,
And I was kind of expecting him to kind of, because we're very different type of writers.
uh-huh,
But I wasn't getting the critique other than I'm dyslexic, so my spelling and grammar is all over the place. So I corrected that. But what he did said, there's so much loneliness in your book. And I said, yes, because I was a spiritual being trying to fit into a human world. But
uh-huh.
in the last 20 years, we have seen the awakening.
Yeah,
We have seen the spirit gates open. We've seen
yeah,
more and more people rise to consciousness. So more and more of my purpose of what I'm here to do is now more seen and heard. Whereas before I felt like I was on deaf ears, or I couldn't be seen because I was just too different from what that norm was. But I knew that the norm wasn't working, and I was here to
Yeah.
help the norm become what
Yeah.
they're meant to become. But we have the right energy with us now. We have people like yourself that have been awakened. And the more you are awakened, the more you're willing to share and the more you're
Yeah.
willing to help other people awaken. And this consciousness is rising and rising and rising and rising. And
Yes,
we are the
indeed.
salvation of this planet and of
Mhm.
all life on this planet. We're the problem,
Mhm.
but we're also the solution the more we rise up into this. It doesn't just become a solution to us personally. We then become part of the collective solution.
Yeah. Like it or not, we're in it together.
Ah, 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 ah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, like the orchestra, every instrument is important.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
instrument, even if there's a dozen strings, they're important to the
Yeah.
piece that's out there. So, if somebody else is doing what you're doing, they're doing it in a different way. I'm a true colors coach. It's 4 different personality perspectives, right? So
Yeah.
my style might not fit all personality perspectives, where somebody else's style fits that perspective that I can't help,
Totally right on. Totally right on.
right?
Totally right on. So I never sweat who's going to come cross my paths. I'm just paying attention as it's showing up and as they're
Yes,
crossing.
because they're there,
That's
they
out of my hand.
vibrationally have chosen you or have been chosen
Indeed.
for you. It's just
Indeed.
for you to be
Indeed.
present when they're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Really good.
You have a law of attraction program. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's cornerstoned. It's cornerstoned in alignment. That's really the whole alignment momentum. That's a really really big deal of getting people outside of their life and letting them look at how the emotional momentum is moving either one direction or the other, and then how to shift that momentum with little shifts, little movements as they're kind of moving, not looking for the next day for
Mm.
a freight train to move from 100 miles an hour to one direction to go the other direction overnight. It doesn't happen that way. But showing that and then shifting people's relationship to contrast, understanding why we create contrast. That does what I've found that does is it frees up people's past. It allows you to free up that nobody ever did you wrong and you never did anybody wrong. You created that and you brought them in as part of your show or part of your
Mm-hmm.
movie. Uh, so that's pretty much what I teach from the fundamentals of what you want is to be happy, just like me.
Yes.
And someday, some way, if you get your stuff, you think you're going to be happy, but we got to find a way to get you happy before your stuff gets here.
But it's also, we carry and accumulate so much stuff with us along the way, and half of it is garbage. And it's like, how do we
Yeah,
take that heavy coat of what is not serving us off anymore so we can be light enough to be able to propel forward? And we can't
yeah,
embrace this beautiful new divine energy that's waiting for us to embrace it if we're still carrying all the old baggage with us.
yeah, yeah. There's some very subtle little tripwires, little riddles wrapped up in conundrums that
Yeah.
really experience that I share with people that I can really see make a big difference. And one of the real big ones is that when big powerful people start to get involved in the law of attraction and understand it, there's a sense of where is it? It's not here.
Yeah.
It's not here. It's not here. And I think I spoke to you about this before we came on, is that
Mm.
that's such a flip or a turnaround because people can feel like such a failure. And then in that conversation, I can let them know you're so powerful that when you keep looking at your present time environment and saying that your thing isn't here, you're keeping it in abeyance.
Yes.
And that cognition is such a like people that have been stuck in a trap of that for a long time,
Mm.
that really opens the floodgates. That's like moving an iceberg out of the middle of a river.
Yeah.
That one really lets things start to flow
It,
for
it's
people.
the it's the I'll believe it when it comes instead no believe it for
Yeah.
it to come.
Yeah, exactly. You got to
Right?
feel good now before it shows up. It's
Exactly.
just the way creation works. It's just
Yeah.
really that way. And the other big thing, Sarah, is it's meditation. It's there's I can't think of anything that's less flashy and
Mm-hmm.
more has a bigger payoff than meditation. And I tell people living in this sector of the galaxy in a physical form and not meditating would be equivalent to trying to run the Boston Marathon without training.
Right.
It's literally that.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, it's really, really, it's the key component of everything that I do is the meditation, but it seems so, or so ordinary and so blah and so mundane and so ugh, right? So there's something to starting to show people, and it literally within the first week of even a small practice, I've noticed that you can't have people sit down for 30 or 40 minutes or even 15, 20 minutes. You start with 5 and then maybe go to 7 and then go to 10. Get something they can get their mind around so they don't end up on a loss the
Yeah.
first time they go and then they don't want to meditate anymore.
Step by step. Step by step.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
rush. The more you take those steps step by step and you start to feel it and you start to feel it work, the more you're going to actually be able to put into another gear, right?
yeah. Well, also for the significance of, it's really important for a human mind to tell them why it's so significant, right? So
Yes.
if they don't get the significance, if I
Mm.
just say, well, you should just meditate because that's what you do, but there's subtle things like this. Here's a big point for an advocacy for meditation is what you want wants you,
Yeah.
right? What you want wants you,
That's what the
and
law
what's
of
going
attraction is.
Yes, exactly. And so they want to know when, by when, right? Those are the two scariest words in the English language. By when?
Okay, I'm giving it 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things that I tell people is as you begin to quiet your mind, one of the things you might see or notice is you might start to see experiences in your really fast. You'll see experiences in your life where you won't react the way you normally would have in the past.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and the reason the meditation is significant is because by not reacting the way you would have in the past, you didn't put more of this resistance up, which is keeping everything in abeyance that you want. So
Yeah.
the meditation is going to increase your ability to allow those things to come into you,
Yes.
and the timing, it could happen right now if you can get yourself to be a match for it. But this thing's been running the show
Mm.
for quite some time. And one of the things that before Ramdas left his body, one of the things he had shared with me was he was trying to get me to understand that there was a bigger part of me that was really in charge of things. And he told me a beautiful story that I'd like to share with you really quick
Please.
if you don't mind. So he said, I want you to get the idea of you're sitting in a stagecoach and you've been in this stagecoach for quite some time. And this stagecoach is going up on two wheels when it turns around the corner. It's not stopping at intersections. Sometimes it just cuts across the field. So it's been a real bumpy journey. And one day, the stagecoach, you reach up and you tap the driver of the stagecoach and you say, hey, pull over up here. And the stagecoach pulls over. And the guy looks down and says, what do you want? And he said, well, I'm Allan, and I want to let you know that I'm going to need you to make full stops from now on. And I actually have a destination on where we're headed with this coach, and no more cutting across the fields and
Yes.
no more. And I want you to just get on this road and go straight until I tap you and tell you to turn.
Mm.
And I want you to follow the speed limit. And the coach driver looks down at me and says, well, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Allan. I actually own this coach. You actually work for me. And that story was the transition of me. Oh, there I am.
Yes.
There I am.
Yes.
There I
You
am.
are in control.
I'm the owner of the coach.
Yes.
I'm the owner of the coach. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, I think, 8 years ago that we did a show together on your book, Think It, Feel It, Have It. And,
Yeah.
I want people to go back and listen to that show. They'll find it on the same show page and listen, to why you wrote the book and all around that, because it's really important. You know, um,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a feel it, think it to have it show. I'm all
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
feeling. But, it's where you were at that time to write that book, which was 10 years
Yeah.
ago, and we did it 8 years ago, and how you've evolved since then, and
Yeah.
and where it's taking you. it's an exciting journey when you take that, isn't it? When you allow
Yeah, it
yourself to
is.
evolve, and you know, the universe gives me, you're going to do da da da, and then I make a graphic out of it for me to see the picture of what they want me to do. And that picture may change slightly, but like 6 years ago, they gave me a very big picture, and that big picture is now coming into fruition step by step now, right? The
Indeed,
books
indeed.
and the mentorships and the educational platforms. And it was for me to put it down and go, okay, I see you, I hear you. And whom, how, and when will be shown as time goes by. But pay attention. And, you know, somebody's going to come into your life, going to question, is it them? No.
Yeah,
Okay, that's all right. And it's the
yeah,
patience and the persistence and the nurturing of it because you know the vision is right,
yeah,
right? But don't put a timestamp on it. Don't put a
yeah,
condition on it. Again, surrender and allow. You will recognize it as it comes. And the more you're in
yeah,
tune with yourself, the more you will recognize when it
yeah.
comes.
Yeah, I tell people when people ask me or inquire about, my life or my journey or anything that I've kind of done up across my, whether it's prison work or whether it's hospice work or, I say, I got involved with teaching people how to sit with dying people because I went to Ramdas one day and said, I need some help. I'm horrified of dying. I'm
Mhm.
scared to death of my mortality. Like, I need some help with this. And he steered me into the hospice movement. That's how I got there. And then the same thing with the prison work. He got me connected up with Bo Lozoff that was doing the prison project. And I just everything that I had this aversion to, I
Yes.
kind of got this, kind of moved in there. But what happened to me on my journey, the way I have come to sum it up is that I was learning how to and practicing loving myself. And then what I woke up to was that it wasn't about loving myself. It was about recognizing or realizing that what I am is love. And so,
Yes.
so
Yes.
now anything I do that's not love, I hurt. I,
Yeah.
I feel, and here's the difference. Anything that I'm doing that my inner being has a different viewpoint on, I feel it. But I get back in line now
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
Right away. I'm not, I'm catching the bowling ball right at the line, not
Yeah.
down by the pins. I used to
Yeah.
catch it right up
Yeah.
on the pin before I wiped everything out, right? That's
Yeah.
the biggest difference. That's the
And
biggest
that is
difference.
because you are aware. You are in
Yeah,
tune. You know it. I've suffered a great deal from depression in my life, and sometimes the rabbit hole has been horrible. And you
yeah,
know, people kind of say, "Snap out of it." It's just this. No, no, there is no rational, no reason for it. It is just a
no.
sense of despair that somebody's come in and pulled out your very soul, and you know, you just don't know what to do with it, and it's
Yeah.
so dark and hard to come out. And yes, I finally got medication for it, which is sitting there, and I know
Hmm.
it's there if I ever need it. But
Yeah.
because I'm so truly immersed in my own essence vibration now, that anytime I feel it coming on, I go, okay, this is actually more of a warning of overload.
Yeah.
And I need to step back, nurture myself.
That's what I mean about catching it early. That's
Yes,
that's really we
exactly.
said the same thing with a different example.
I've had
Yeah.
no rabbit holes for a long time now because I catch it. Okay, this is a well-being day. No,
Yeah.
I know you've got a pile of work to do. Forget it. The headphones are going on. You're listening to music.
Right
You're
on, right
something
on, right
right
on,
on
right.
for yourself, right?
Yeah,
Because until
beautiful.
you
Really
fortify
beautiful.
yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything else. And it's
Really
paying
beautiful.
attention to that, right?
Yeah.
And it used to be, but I've got so many people counting on me. How am I good for them if I have no oxygen, right? So
Sarah, back during when Gandhi was in India, do you remember there was the Salt March where he had all the people they were going to do a march in protest of the British taxing the salt, and
yes,
the day before, like 4 or 5 in the afternoon before they were going to do the march, like hundreds of thousands of people were getting ready to go on this march. And so he took 3 or 4 of his generals and he went up to the bluff there around 5 or 6, just before the sun went down. And he looked over and he saw all the British troops and the cannons and everything lined up there. And so he told the guy that was in charge, he said, listen, I need you to go back and cancel the march. There's going to be violence.
hmm
And he said, Gandhi, we can't cancel the march. There's people have taken off work. The women have been
yeah,
preparing food for days. Like, we got to go. Like, it's scheduled. And Gandhi said, I understand what you're saying, but I want to let you know that the difference between you and me is that you're committed to being consistent and I'm committed to my truth.
yeah,
There's going to be violence. So go back and cancel the march, right? My truth changes from moment to moment.
That's
And
the point.
that ability to be
Mm,
present now
yeah,
instead of doing what I thought I should, and what instead of like, oh, you know what, something's coming off here. I'm gonna go. And the way I used to do it, Sarah, was I'd go try to figure it out and fix it like something was wrong.
right. Yes.
Now I just have it disappear from lack of attention. I notice it, and it's almost like, oh, you mean just stick your head in the sand? Yeah, that's kind of what you can call it anything you want, but it's about maintaining my vibration. So what's happened is my vibration, where it used to be a bottom is here and then a top here, it's just gone up. My bottom's raised.
Yes.
That's what's
Yes.
happened.
And
That's a really good way.
what to pay attention to and what is just an old memory or an old feeling. Okay, all right, I see you, but I'm sorry, we're not serving you anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And it's I sometimes I get myself into a traffic jam with too much on my plate at once, which I'm there right
yeah,
now, okay? And it just seems to be the nature of how life is that it doesn't matter how well I try and plan things out to be in order. I live in
yeah,
chaos, and so it all comes together at once. But I seem to
hmm,
work in that chaos to a
yeah,
point. And what I've learned to do, okay, that ball, you stay up there. I'll bring you down when I'm ready and
yeah,
concentrate what I need to get down. Okay, you can come down and be a part of this. You're staying up there. And
yeah.
also this big two-letter word, no,
No, yeah, no is a
no.
big one.
It's
Yeah.
a very big one.
Sarah, one thing that's really important that I've noticed inside of this conversation is that this is really, really tricky, but our natural condition, our natural state is good.
Hmm.
Our natural state is really,
Hmm.
really good shape. And so that's another thing that the meditation is really, really good for is you don't really need to do anything to get right. You got to stop doing whatever that thing is that you're
Yes,
doing to keep yourself off and keep yourself down. So
right,
that's a very, very one of the best analogies I heard was somebody that's vacuuming their floor, but the vacuum's not plugged in.
right.
Right? So they're moving it around and they want everyone to recognize how hard they're working it, but they never really picked anything up. They just moved junk
Yeah,
around everything because it had no power. There was no
right.
power connected up to
Yeah,
that
I always
whole
say be
deal.
careful what you seed and what you're watering because that's what's going to grow. If you get weeds, it's what you seeded. So be mindful of your seeds. What is it you want to grow, and are you watering and nurturing them?
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Because, our garden is either fruitful or desperate according to
Yeah,
how we feed it.
yeah,
And yes, we're going to get obstacles along the way. Yes, we're going to get challenges. That's part of the human existence. But
yeah,
the more those challenges come up and the more that you're living in this higher vibration, the more you can cope with those challenges and not be overwhelmed by them because you know what to do now. Take the breath, deal with you, not with you, and just be able to get it done because we're no longer feeling the outside pressure. We know what's important
yeah,
to do. We have that energy in order to do it, and we will deal with it as it goes. And
yeah,
we simplify things so much more. It doesn't matter how much more we take on, but we do it in a simplified way that allows that energy to expand and to grow within it.
yeah. And as we're feeling better, as we're experiencing those higher realms of vibration, not much really sticks to us.
No,
We're pretty unmess withable really at that
right.
particular
And
point.
we can still stand up against injustice. I mean, the whole book that I'm doing is about how we're letting our children down. We have to address it. But we
Mm,
don't bash anybody for it. What we do is we look at the system and the patterns that we're in, and it is
yeah,
the system that is wrong, not any, everybody wants to look for someone to blame. The fingers pointing,
yeah,
pointing, pointing. It's their fault. Well, there's three fingers pointing back at you and say, well, what was your part in it? What are you going to do
yeah,
about it?
and
Where's your responsibility?
also, Sarah, that there's a plan going on of these people unfolding in their story and their things, and just like you had yours and I had mine, it would have been, and people who really, really cared about me really wanted to remove my toughness and my suffering, but it wasn't so much about me. It was more about them not feeling good, seeing me feeling bad.
Exactly.
And so there's something really important about not meddling in somebody's deal, but being available for them if they want to make a transition, right?
Yes.
So,
Being
you know,
just giving them space, being present for
giving
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and understanding,
Yeah.
understanding, understanding. You mentioned COVID. One of the things, I had a completely different. I was traveling a lot when that was going on around the country, and it was really bizarre. It really was a bizarre time, the amount of fear that was there. But
Yes.
I think, yeah, one of the things that I noticed was that the real epidemic on the planet is loneliness. And it
100%.
really got exposed during that whole deal. I remember going and seeing there was next to where I live, there's not a retirement home, but like a transitional home, and there's a lot of single older people or older couples, right? And they were the most scared
Yes, of
because,
course.
the as seems like, and I hadn't experienced this until I caught it. It seems like as we age, like our bodies, like we get more afraid, and it doesn't seem to heal as fast. And then I realized what the big difference was. When I was 6, I didn't care about it. I just knew it was going to
Yeah.
get right again. How come I'm not doing that at 50, right?
I mean, I'm a bronchial asthmatic and I got COVID and oh, you asthma, don't, you mustn't get it. And I got it. And yeah, God, it sucked. I've got the various variants. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson. He's a petri dish and he brings everything home from daycare
Of course,
and
of
he
course.
loves to share it. And I've been sicker in this last 2.5 years than I have in years, catching everything he's got, including this, RSV virus, which put one of them in the hospital. Um,
Mhm.
and so, but the thing is, I know I'm going to get through it. And, yes, I had bronchitis at one time. Other times, this is RSV, it's a respiratory thing. I am asthmatic. Okay, I take my precautions. I do what I need to do. I put common sense in play, right? And then I get on with it, right? And
Yeah,
the thing is, when we give in to fear, when we have fear, it's like the common sense fear. Don't walk in front of a bus, you're going to get flattened. And then
yeah.
the excitement fear of like, where can this take me? What can I discover? What can I achieve from this? And I think is know your balance of your fears. And what's the point of being fearful of a disease where course this the common sense. Don't go and put yourself in danger if you're sensitive. There's the common sense of it. But at the same time, I think being fearful all the time opens up for fear to come in,
Yeah.
right? But being optimistic and going, I'm going to be sensible, I'm going to be cautious, but at the same time, I'm not going to give in to fear.
There's no bullies without victims. There's no victims without bullies. They need
Exactly.
each other very much.
And one of the worst things, as you pointed out before, is being your own worst bully.
Yeah.
You're right, and
Yes, indeed. Yes,
and that
indeed. Yes,
nobody
indeed.
can hurt you as much as you can hurt yourself. And so,
Yeah.
I'm recognizing that you're doing that, right? So that's,
Yeah.
a number one to
Yeah.
look at. So you have this wonderful program. How do people get hold of you? How do they join your class and your program there? And of course, you've got another book coming out soon, which we'll have you back to talk about that. But of course, your other book
Yeah.
is still going strong, and I want people to come back and listen to that show, please, because we talked all about that, which is great. But tell us everything and how we can get hold of
I
you.
will, but I'll just tell you this other book that I just finished was you'll really get a kick out of this. So it's it's got a real 60s groovy, like, Partridge Family bus with peace signs and purple and yellow all over it on the cover of it. And the title of the book is It's a Spiritual Hypochondriac's Guide to Enlightenment. And it's 499 pages, the book is. And when you open the book, on the first page it says, relax, everything you want wants you, you're stopping it from arriving, and the
Oh,
rest of the pages are blank.
love it. Love it.
So it's just a gag. It's a
No,
gag.
I mean,
So
it's actually very poignant because what you write down is what you're manifesting. So be mindful of what you're asking for, or mindful of, like if you've got some burdens, to say, I choose to release these burdens, not I have these burdens, right? Just put
yeah.
I choose to release in front of the burdens. I wish
Yeah,
to
and the
feel
idea
like
is
this,
yeah, and the idea also is that it ain't about all that difficulty figuring out stuff.
Yeah.
It's just relax, relax, chill out,
Chill out,
relax,
man. Yeah.
chill out, relax,
Chill out.
chill out, relax.
So, how do people get hold of these courses? How do they get hold of the book? Give us your site and all your information, hun.
Yeah, well, they can always just communicate with me at my main site, which is achendrickson.com. That's my website. It's got everything on there. It's got some good blog posts that I did on meditation and why meditation, but they can reach me there. My other is, my they can find me on LinkedIn. They can communicate with me on LinkedIn, and if I'm always open for a conversation for somebody that's dealing with something where they need some help, or if I'm not a match for them, or maybe I've got probably a probably as good of reinforcement of other coaches around me of things that are more appropriate and fitting for, because not everyone's a match for me. Mine's my program is just it's you know I'm not into goal setting, is not part of my program, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like, when you're bumping into something and there's some stuff where you don't have an environment or a community that has some of these other distinctions that you know you don't really find floating around in the local conversations.
Right.
So, and the timing, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just not for everybody. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, it's just I'm not really serving somebody if I'm talking to them about, keeping appointments and,
Mm.
their personal integrity. Like, but I have other coaches that I work with that are good for that. But anybody that's, I just anybody that's dealing with an addiction that needs somebody that can actually point them in the right direction to get themselves stabilized and get out of the woods. I'm really, really good at that. And that's what I'm really here to do.
And it doesn't matter what kind of the addiction is. Do not assume
It
it's
doesn't
drugs or
really
alcohol,
matter.
right?
Yeah, it
Whatever
doesn't
the
really
addiction, anything that you're
yeah.
obsessed about
Yeah.
unreasonably that's detrimental to you, that
Yeah.
is an addiction.
Yeah, and whether we work together a long time or not, one of the
Yeah,
things that I definitely know for sure is after that first phone call, they will have a real clear, certain understanding of why this condition is going on and then what's coming for them down the road. They'll get a lot of relief from that first phone call.
right. And then of
Mm.
course it's their choice. It's their choice
Yes,
whether
indeed.
they're willing to take this journey. You can show them the what and the how, but they've got to come to you with free will and free choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
They'll reach.
if they don't work with you, you're not doing it for them. You're helping them do it for themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes I tell people, I'm batting 1,000 when somebody works with me, but the only reason I'm batting 1,000 is because they actually wanted to get better. It
Exactly.
wasn't
No.
me.
No,
I
no,
was just,
you're just the sheepdog guiding them along the
yeah,
way,
whatever that is. I'm just,
out of
yeah,
the pen,
yeah.
into the pasture.
It's not really me.
Yeah,
And that's a real interesting concept when you're being of service for anyone. It's really making it okay for whatever course that they decide to take, and not getting stuck up in some sort of outcome with them, because
yeah.
there isn't really anything wrong. It's perfect just the way it's unfolding and just the way it isn't.
And there is no kind of must be done by this time. I promise you this by this time. No, it's how they participate in the journey as how the
Yeah, there's no
results are going to
shitting.
be. No,
No
no,
shitting on people.
no, 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 definitely not. No shaming, no blaming, no shitting, just supportive, loving support, right? And,
Yeah.
that's very often what people need is this reflection back as to what they're seeing and how they could see it differently, and then just loving them on that journey forward, which is really what it's
Yeah, and
about.
that's another really, really big point, because love really exists in the listening and the understanding. I don't know how closely together love and understanding is, but it's, they're
But
they're
they're partners.
they're at least non-identical twins for
Yeah,
sure. It's really, really close.
yeah.
So that,
And
that's
compassion
really,
and
yeah,
compassion. Love and compassion are definitely companions. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, achendrickson.com is the site. That's probably the best way to reach me. And yeah, I'd love to talk to people. Anybody wants to reach out to me, I'd really love to talk
Yeah.
to them.
Have a conversation. You don't know whether there's a fit or not. Have that
You just never
conversation. If
know.
this show has resonated with you, have that conversation with him. Maybe you're not quite ready. You just need that call, you need that chat to maybe pivot you or just show you what it's all about. And then he's there when you are ready. But you're not going to know unless you pick up that phone or reach his site and drop a line and start that conversation.
Yeah, and that's a confidential conversation. That's not something that we go public with.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
It's your journey, it's your private journey, and he's just
indeed.
there cheering you on, guiding you, making sure that you're going in the right direction.
Amen.
But you still got to walk it. You still got to walk
Indeed.
it.
Yes, indeed.
And it's worth
Sarah,
it.
thank
The
you.
waters are wonderful. Come on in. Thank you for coming back again and sharing. We don't have to leave it so long next time. So
Yeah,
you come back again Please go back and listen to the other show and reach out for his book as well. It's timeless, so it's not a question that it was only fashionable back then. It's timeless, so it
That's
probably
so great you said that. That's so great you said that. It really is. I went back. I go back every now and then and read it as I expand.
Mhm.
I go back and read it, and it's just gold.
Yeah,
It's just really
yeah,
gold, you know.
and that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's it's that wonderful kind of foundation of which to build from, right? So,
yeah,
good
yes, indeed.
wisdom never goes out of date. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
yeah,
So thank you so
yeah,
much, Alan, for being with us here today. And to everyone else, please recognize, kind of recognize in yourself there's a pattern that you're constantly repeating. Is it an addictive nature, no matter what it is? Do you need help in order to transition and kind of move and start looking at things in a different way? And you know that you can't do it on your own. Alan is here to help you. And we all need help. No shame in asking for help. There's no blame, no shame.
amen.
All he wants to do is see you get into that right direction and step into your own beautiful light and essence, because that is where you're not only going to be a solution to yourself, but you're going to be a solution to everyone else as well. So
Yeah,
until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.